I tell you what, we'll just go ahead and get going now. I know we've got quite a bit to cover. My name is Will Steely from Graphic Solutions Group, or GSG, as we're kind of known a little bit more. Um, Today, I'm joined by Jim Peterson and Rick LeBlanc. Jim from Vanguard Print Systems and Rick from Kongsberg, and we're going to talk about rigid substrates printing and with Vanguard, and then the finishing aspect here with Kongsberg as well, and Rick. So, Jim, I'll turn it over to you if you want to go ahead and get started, sir.
Okay. Yeah, as while I'm getting another window open here, just wanted to kind of reintroduce myself. My name's Jim Peterson with Vanguard Digital Printing Systems. We're a manufacturer of fixed table and roll-to-roll flatbed UV printing equipment located in Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our newest member of our distribution family, GSG. We're excited to have them part of the Vanguard family. And yeah, excited to be showing you a complete A to Z workflow partnered with Kongsberg here. So I'm going to share a video with everyone. So I'm going to be sharing this screen. Everybody should be able to see this video here. And I'm just going to get this started, and I'll be pausing throughout this. Again, please ask any questions. I'll be pausing and highlighting certain features and benefits of our VR5DE fixed table flatbed UV printer. And this is our entry-level printer in our portfolio.
And if there are any questions, by the way, yeah, feel free to jump on the chat. If you'd like to join us via video, you can certainly do that as well. But happy to ask in chat, and then I'll go ahead and get them answered from these guys as well. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, thank you. So this is our VR5DE. It's a 4x8 fixed table flatbed. It features the Ricoh. Let me get my pointer up. It features the Ricoh Gen 5 print heads. The Ricoh Gen 5 print heads are a dual channel print head, meaning we can run two colors within one print head. It's an extremely robust industrial print head that is a true grayscale, meaning it jets different drop dot sizes to increase image quality and capability. So the grayscale provides a 5, 10, and 15 picoliter dot. With this machine and all Vanguard machines, they're completely scalable. And what I mean by that is you can start off with just 2 print heads and go all the way up to 10. The machine you're looking at here is maxed out with 10 print heads. So this is a CMYK white configuration with a mirrored head array.
Jim, do you need light cyan and light magenta? I know you've got dual CMYK there. Are we missing anything with that?
Yeah, not really, Will. The head technology has come a long way. And when we're jetting a dot as small as 5 picoliter, you really don't need the light cyan and light magenta, the dilutions, in order to achieve a phenomenal print quality. This machine has won product of the year a couple times. And we've achieved that with 4 colors. So no, we do offer it if that's an absolute necessity. And then we also offer varnish as well in our portfolio. So if that's something that you see a market for and a need for, we can certainly accommodate that as well.
What does the varnish help with?
So the varnish does a couple different things. It gives it a gloss factor. And you accentuate certain spots within the image. So if you have a beverage, a Coca-Cola bottle, and the sweat dripping off the Coca-Cola bottle, if you want to accentuate just that area, you can highlight just that, put the varnish down on top of that, and it really makes it pop. You can flood the whole thing to get an extremely high gloss level within the print as well.
Okay. So
one of the things I want to point out here, you'll notice how everything is laid out very, very open and clean. This really allows the user to be able to get in here and do some periodic maintenance, like changing filters, turning off the sub tanks and different things and purging print heads and things of that nature. So we really thought this through to make sure that it's extremely user friendly. But I did want to touch on the field upgradability of our machines, because this is one of the big differentiators between us and some of our competition. If you start off with 2 print heads, you can upgrade your machine so the machine will grow as the business grows. So it prevents the need for having to trade in a machine at a fraction of the value of what it's worth. And you simply add print heads and some printer boards and have a technician come out to install that. And then from there, you can literally double, sometimes triple the speed of the machine. Or if you want a machine with just CMYK now, you can start off with that and then add white in the field at any point in time. From here, we're going to move on to our ink reservoir and ink delivery system. And I'll pause down here a little bit and explain what you're looking at here. So in this shot, you see 5 jugs because this machine's running CMYK white. These are 3-liter reservoirs that contain our ink. Above each respective color channel, you'll notice the round red indicator light. That's an indicator light and a buzzer, if you will. It gives you both an audible and visual indication that your ink is running low. One of the great things. Yeah, was there a question?
Sorry, yeah, I was going to say, can you fill that up? Fill that up as you're going, or does the machine shut down and you have to wait to fill it up?
No, that's one of the beautiful things about our machine. You don't have to. We call it fill on the fly. So if you're in the middle of a print job and that indicator light starts beeping and flashing at you, you literally just take off the cap there and you pour the ink directly into it. So you never have to stop the print. And in some printers that are in the market, it actually stops the print and you can't resume the print after the fact. So you've essentially wasted that print potentially. Also, you'll notice the white ink jug has a couple more hoses coming in and out of it. That's our white ink recirculation system. So we do recirculate the white throughout the entire machine, all the way up through the chain, into the sub tank, through the sub tanks, and then back down to the bottle. So we're keeping white in constant motion all the time. And the reason for this is white has to contain titanium dioxide, which gives it the opacity needed for a good, nice, deep, milky white. And so in order to do that, because it's a heavy metal, you have to keep it in constant motion. And so that's our recirculation system you see there. And our inks are sold in 1-liter bottles. So again, you can just fill on the fly. You just pour the 1-liter into the 3-liter. And so what we're panning into here is our vacuum system. So each chamber has a valve that corresponds with the chamber on the bed. So chambers number 1 and 2 are 24 by 24. Valves 1, 2, and 3 correspond to a 4-foot by 4-foot spot. And then obviously zone 4 is a 4-foot by 4-foot. So you have all those zones on this, your full 4x8 sheet. We did this so people didn't have to necessarily mask off the table with sacrificial material or tape or other things of that nature if they want to print just a small piece or a piece that kind of fits common media sizes. So if you're doing a 24 by 18 one-off Coroplast sign, you can throw it down right there on zone 1, turn off all the other zones, and that gives ample vacuum power to that zone to hold that material down. Our vacuums are 2.5 horsepower turbine ring blower motors. So it holds down every common sign substrates, anything from acrylics to ACM, even wood panels, 3/4 inch plywood, and a multitude of different substrates. And then we're going to pan up to our control panel. And you'll notice that there's an emergency stop here on the front left-hand corner. What you don't see are the other three, which are located on every single corner of the table. And these are always within arm's reach. Should something go on, should somebody drop something on the table, you know, or whatever. If there's any chance that you need to stop the machine dead in its tracks, that he stops there to do that in all four corners. And so what the operator is doing here is he's going to press the vacuum button, and he pressed the reversible vacuum button. And the reversible vacuum basically provides an air pocket underneath the material to allow the operator to move the material around the table with ease. And you'll see how easy it is for him to slide that with just one hand. Then he pops up the pins. And these are pneumatic pins. There's 8 feet of pins on the x-axis and 2 feet of pins on the y-axis. So there's several pins running down on the 8 foot, and then 2 foot up, there's 2 pins. And so this locks in your XY origin every single time. So you know that the print is going to start right at the corner. Some machines have mechanical screw-in fasteners, or it's a mechanical operation. These are all pneumatic push-button actuators. So it makes it really easy.
Now, Jim, on the software side of things, can you go over some of the features that you have within your with your control software?
Yeah, we're going to pan over to that here in just a second. I want to touch on one thing before we get off of this screen here. There's a couple of other buttons here. The bottom left is an ink purge button. That's for purging ink. That's your morning and afternoon maintenance. But the more important thing I want to point out, we're going to touch on later, those 2 black knobs on either side of the online button. A green button is what turns the machine on. But the 2 black knobs are really important. I'm going to touch on them later, but those are adjusting knobs for the lamp intensity. So you can adjust the lamp intensity from 0 to 100% actually on the fly, or before or after. And I'll get in a little bit later as to why that's important. Yeah, we're going to pan over now to what Will was talking about. And so this is our controller software. And so this is a Vanguard digital software that we've designed and we've developed. Now, this is independent of the RIP. Our preferred RIP solution partners are Onyx and Caldera. So our machine drives with either one of those. We do have drivers for some others if that's a necessity. But those are primarily the 2 that have the most market share. Within the controller software, we can do a tremendous amount of things. Probably the biggest benefit to the controller software is I don't have to go back to the RIP if I want to increase quality. So I can add passes. I can add what we call feathering, which is how we smooth the passes into each other to make it a really nice smooth transition to reduce chromatic banding and other artifacts in the print. This can all be done directly from the controller software. So once I've received the job from the RIP, I don't have to go back. I can print in draft mode, or I can print in museum high quality mode, and everything in between, simply through this controller software. The other extremely robust feature about this controller software is if my image doesn't have a white layer in it, I can add white to the job directly from the controller software. So I don't have to go back to Illustrator or CorelDRAW and add that white layer to it. I can create a white layer of the artboard for that image directly from the controller software. Or I can just put white underneath where the CMYK dots will be. So there's no need to go back and do that unless you want a spot white within the file. Textured printing, that's another big thing that a lot of people are doing now. Within the controller software, you can add multiple layers. You can add up to 36 layers of ink, and that's 36 independent layers for each channel that you've got. So you can really build up a tremendous amount of texture. for a multitude of different applications that can all be done directly within the controller software. And then some other more daily things. You can crop images within the software. So if you have a 4x8 board, but you just need to reprint one, you can crop it out. And you can repeat and mirror images if you're doing color, white color, and things of that nature. And this is all included with the printer. Vanguard provides obviously the monitor, the keyboard, the mouse, but also an extremely robust computer that can absolutely run the RIP if you want it to. And so all that's included in the purchase price of the machine.
Oops. Perfect. Hey, Jim, I think we're going to transition over here to the finishing side with Rick. I know I do have one question for you on the back end of this, so we'll jump over to that momentarily. But Rick, if you wouldn't mind, and Kongsberg, you guys can take over the finishing aspect from here. And just to remind everybody, I think if you double click on the video, you may not have to see me full screen unless you'd really like to. So perhaps double click on the Kongsberg video, and that'll help you to see that more full screen as opposed to me. Go ahead, Rick.
So yeah, at the bottom, just double click on that because we've got a 4-camera system there, so that you can see it up close. So once it's all printed, you know, the idea here is how do we get it, you know, out of the back door, out of the shipping department as soon as possible. One of the things we do at Kongsberg is we study business processes very carefully. It does you no good to be efficient in one area and not in another. And the one thing that we know is that the longer a job stays in your shop, the less money you make on it. The more hands that touch it, the more times you touch it, the less money you make on it. So when you print direct to substrate, the next thing you want to do is cut digitally so that you can take the job, throw it on a machine like you're seeing here, and just cut it up, put it in a box, and ship it out. So I'm going to turn it over to Jesse in our cut lab in Miamisburg, Ohio, to show you what was just printed and how that's going to be cut. And again, I remind you, if you haven't done it, just double click on the square there where it says Kongsberg PCS and Jesse's name so that you can see all of the detail.
How we doing, everyone? Welcome to Dayton, Ohio, Kongsberg CEC. What we're going to be showing today is, like Rick mentioned, we're going to be cutting on the C24. This is an ACM type material, so it's like a metal aluminum composite, and we're going to be routing this material. So let me get you an up close and personal view here. And then we'll go ahead and start cutting this. So machine is going and checking its bit tips right now, and that's just to ensure that we're at the correct Z position when we cut through this material. It's found that first registration mark. It's going and finding the rest of them. And then we'll go ahead and route this.
So a couple of things you've noticed is that everything is automatic. It's going to automatically register every part of that print and know exactly where to route or cut. So it uses the little registration marks on each corner of the material, which are printed on as soon as as Jim was just showing you the printing device. They're printed on with all of the graphics. And then our system has the intellect to look at those registration marks and understand by each one where every part of these graphics are, no matter how many up you have them. Here, I think we have 9 up, if I'm not mistaken. And we've seen things with 100, 150 small labels or tags up on a sheet. So right now, what we're doing is going around each particular graphic piece with a router, a milling system. So just like a carpenter's router, a lot more accurate, and we're spinning the bit at a lot faster rotation. The reason we do that, the fast rotation, is so that you get a nice, perfectly clean edge. Again, we were speaking earlier about what it's like in manufacturing and business. You don't want to have to hand finish and hand inspect every single piece. When you get into digital manufacturing, you want it to print on the board correctly, whatever the substrate is, and you want to cut it out and you want it to cut correctly. You don't need the extra steps of, oh, let me look at this, let me get a file if it's aluminum or sandpaper or something like that, and smoothing out the edges. That's why when we look at these types of devices, we're so fastidious about making sure that not only does it cut correctly, but the edges are completely clean. And Jesse will show you that right now.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Yeah, we've got very clean edges, no deburring or anything needed. This is effectively ready to ship right off the machine.
Hey, and Rick, we had a question. What's the max RPMs on the router?
We have two different versions of our routing milling unit. One of them is 45,000 RPMs and the other is 60,000 RPMs. And the reason, again, for the speed is when we're doing things like die bond aluminum or acrylics, you want that nice clean edge every time so that you don't have to dress it or address it, either one, you know, before you put it in the box and ship it out. And you can see as Jesse's holding that up how nice and clean that edge is.
Yeah, there's no debris, nothing.
Another quick question. How thick is that material that we're cutting right now, Rick?
Jesse, how thick is the material?
It's like 0.125, so about 1/8 of an inch thick.
Okay, it's typically die bond, you know, typical die bond aluminum.
Typical thickness of die bond.
Yeah, and I noticed as you're picking those up, as you mentioned, there isn't any debris left on the table. I'm assuming there's a vacuum system in there as well.
Yeah, there's very little debris, and you're correct. There is a vacuum system. So this this tube right here pulls all the chips and debris out, puts it in the vacuum system, and leaves you a very clean table. So very minimal cleanup.
The top question I get asked often is, how close? Do I have to put this in a separate room? Do I have to? This is a very, very clean milling and routing system. So we are vacuuming when the bit is in the material, we're sucking that debris away at that moment, as soon as it's cut out. So you won't have anything that gets into the room, that gets into the printer next to our machine. I've got clients with our cutting device and a laminator right next to them. It's quite that clean and quite that easy and simple to use. If you've had experience with an industrial router, you've walked into that room where that industrial router is and there's stuff on the floor, the walls, even there's stuff stuck to the ceiling. That is an industrial device, and it's kind of being misused if it's in graphics because it's not going to give a clean edge to begin with, but it's also incredibly messy, and that's okay in industrial applications. In our graphics applications, none of us have the extra square footage to build a whole other room for this. So you'll be able to put this right in your manufacturing area and just use it right next to every other piece of equipment that you have.
And we did just have a question as well. Can this also be used for carving on 3/4 inch color core?
Yes. So one series of our machines has a maximum thickness of 1 inch on the material. The other one has a maximum thickness of 2 inches. But yes, 3/4 inch will be fine. 1 inch will be fine on every machine we have.
Any other questions?
Let me scoot there and take a look here.
Yeah, we what different materials can it cut? We're getting from Mr. Patrick here, so I'll let you take that away, Rick. I'm sure you can go into more depth than me.
It's almost easier to discuss the materials we cannot finish on this device, which are, you know, glass and iron and steel. Everything else, there's a way to either cut it or route it. It just depends on the type of material. So everything that you would use in your day-to-day business for environmental graphics, signage displays, 3D displays, countertop displays can all be finished on this machine. And it ranges in everything from aluminum, like let's say real estate signs and construction signs that are actual solid aluminum, all the way down to paper and little stickers and labels. You can do all of that on the same machine. Different tooling, but then again, that, you know, we have a tremendous amount of training that comes with it. So you'll know what to do. And you can see where Jesse's holding up that, what a gorgeous piece of acrylic that is. And all kinds of different materials there, including the box that's sitting there. You can do packaging, shipping containers, all kinds of things on this machine.
And Jesse, would you mind doing a close-up of the edge of the acrylic? We had a question to or a request rather to see that. Rick, you had mentioned that there were two different speeds to the router as far as the RPMs are concerned. Does that just add speed? I'm assuming they can both cut and route the same, but does that just add a little bit more speed for it?
Correct. So we have two different routing milling units, and I see a question that popped up, which one was used here. So we have a 1 kilowatt and a 3 kilowatt. Don't get confused by power. Power is irrelevant in graphic arts. If I'm building a boat or some cabinets, power is important. When we're doing graphic arts work, a clean, consistent edge that doesn't fray in and out as the machine's running is what's critical. So on our 1 kilowatt version, our maximum speed is 45,000 RPM. 3 kilowatt is 60,000 RPM. And the only difference between the two is that with the 3 kilowatt version, which spins faster, we can move through the material faster. So our overall production time is lower. It takes us less time, to do X number of pieces in a day or a shift.
And just circling back to the acrylic, our friend Miguel over here is asking, is that how the acrylic comes out of the machine that way, or do you have to do any other post-finishing or anything like that to get that clean edge?
So that's an awesome question. And what we're finding, the reason that question is so good is because it'll apply to acrylic, and I'll answer it for acrylic, but just kind of extrapolate that out to other materials. In the era of digital manufacturing, there are so many of the same type of materials. Acrylic is not acrylic. You've got cast acrylic, you've got all these different types of acrylic, you've got digital acrylic. So yes, that's the way that what Jesse showed you there, most of that's coming out of our machine that way. That is good quality acrylic. When you have a lower quality of acrylic, we do have a diamond polishing bit that can go back and polish the edges after it's milled and give you just about a flame polished look. So it really depends upon what materials you're using as to the edge quality you're going to get. The machine itself is capable of an excellent edge quality. The reaction of the material against the bit that's spinning through the material or the blade that's moving through the material often is what happens. It's more the type of material and the reaction of the material. And again, that's part of our training as well, as selecting materials and knowing which ones to select for which level of job. If I'm doing Billy Ed for sheriff yard signs, Jim will feel the same way. You put it on the highest production rate, it's only going to be in the yard for 4 weeks, and it's typically on the cheapest material, Coroplast, and it just doesn't matter. When Delta Airlines or Coca-Cola or AT&T come to you, the color matters, the edge quality matters, the consistency of the logo to the edge of each piece, if they're going to be on display outside of an AT&T retail store, for example, really matters to those kind of clients. And so you're going to wind up choosing materials a little differently sometimes for each type of client.
Thanks, Rick. And Daryl asked if, of course, we brought up glass. Can we do any marking on glass?
Yes, we can mark on glass. We did have, little side card here, we do have one client who took one of our tools and modified it into a glass etching tool. They print on glass. That's all they do all day. And you may have seen the company's called Fracture. You've seen their commercials on television. Gorgeous photographs and arts printed on glass. And what they did was, out of the machine, the multiple Kongsberg machines they have, they modified one tool with an etching diamond on the end of it. And they're etching the glass. Of course, glass you don't route or you don't cut, you snap. So they're etching all of their glass now on the machine to get the etch lines perfectly straight, and then they're snapping it. So in a way, we can do glass, but I don't want to talk much about that. It's not something we do standard every day. But marking on glass, yes, we have different pen tools that can drop into the machine, and you can draw, write, do anything you want. Aircraft, for example, the FAA requires a vellum paper drawing of every component and every design of every aircraft. They're all done in computers. They use our machines with pen tools to actually draw the vellum drawings.
I did have a question here for Jim, asking to explain the difference between why you just have the 2 print heads for CMYK versus what you need to have maybe 4 print heads for CMYK.
Yeah, good question. So it's a dual channel print head, so you can run 2 inks in a single print head. That's where your CMYK comes from. So you have yellow, magenta in one print head, cyan, black in another.
So if you were to do maybe one of those field upgrades like you were talking about, and I think that's a great advantage of your machine as well, as being able to do a field upgrade, Could you get it to where you have, you know, one color per head, basically?
No, but not in that configuration. We have another machine that is a single channel print head, but it's far better to do a mirrored head array to where you have yellow, magenta, cyan, black, and then white in the middle if you have white, then black, cyan, magenta, yellow. Because what happens is you're putting the dots down in the same color order bidirectionally, which will reduce the amount of chromatic banding and other artifacts you see in the print, versus putting down yellow, going, you know, from right to left, and then black going from left to right. So when you have a mirrored head array, it does help the quality slightly. So we can do it all the way across, but it's going to be a mirrored head array. Yeah.
Perfect. I know we were slated until about 1 o'clock. However, if we do have some additional questions, you know, I think we're willing to hang out here for a few more minutes as well. If there are some additional questions. As far as getting Brad, I know you were asking on demo equipment for Vanguard specifically at some of the GSG branches. I know that we are working on that right now. It is a fairly new partnership for us, and we're working to get some of that demo equipment in a few of the branches as we speak. I don't know if we have a specific date, but I could certainly follow up with you on that offline as well. And also a live demo going on over at the Kongsberg booth a little bit later as well. I think just saw that.
Actually, at the top of the hour here, I'll hang with you guys for a few more minutes, and then in our booth, we have a live demonstration starting up in the next minute or so, and that's why you saw Jesse just gently exit. Any other questions, though? I'm more than happy to answer them.
Chad, I think a friend out here in Lago Vista, Texas, does the varnish replace the white, or are they separate, Jim?
They would be separate. They would be two separate print heads, and yeah.
Okay.
Which gives you more versatility. You'd be able to put down white underneath. You know, if you're doing a black Centra, you could put down white, then color, then varnish on top.
And Rick, as far as cutting on Coroplast goes, do you know roughly, let's say 4x8 Coroplast 1824s, do you have a rough idea of how many we'd be, you know, pushing through in an hour, how many boards we could get through?
Depends on the machine. Our fastest machine, during political season, I had a client report back to me they were doing a board of signs every 14 seconds. Our system automatically optimizes how it's going to cut, makes no unnecessary movements. On a standard typical machine, let's say for the kind of company I used to own, where I'm not, you know, I don't need something that's blazingly fast. We're looking at 35, 40 seconds per sheet of 4x8 signs.
Oh, very good. It seems like maybe the operator is kind of the bottleneck at that point, moving the material.
Right. So what we did in that particular client that was doing political signage for the presidential election, every time a sign finished on the machine, sheet finished, the conveyor top moved it off, which moved the next one right in. And so when you say, you know, 14 seconds a sheet, it was boom, 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 and it was done. So.
Well, it looks like we've gotten to most of the questions. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited about the partnership with Vanguard and, of course, the continued success that we've had with Kongsberg. If you guys, anybody has any additional questions, I'll hang out here and then follow up with you directly. But we certainly appreciate your time, Jim, Rick, you as well. And definitely reach out to any of your GSG branches to learn a little bit more about these systems as well.
I'll say one final little thing, Will. We last week changed our name to protect the innocent, so we were known as ESCO. Kongsberg was the product, the digital cutting product. ESCO was the company that bought Kongsberg 35, 40 years ago. So last week we became a privately owned company again, and that's why you saw the name shift. A lot of you, if you're familiar with us, as ESCO. It's all the same people, the same engineering team, the same R&D team, the same factory, the same field engineers. But we just changed our name to Kongsberg PCS, Kongsberg Precision Cutting Systems, and that happened on April 1st. So there seems to be a lot of questions about that today, and I just wanted to point that out while we're all just visiting here.
Absolutely. It's taken a little while for me to get ESCO out of my brain, but I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys, and I know it's still going to be the same quality that you've always had.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was a strategic move that gives us a lot more opportunity on more aggressive R&D, newer tooling, the kinds of things that we're hearing from the field, whether it's our clients who currently own a machine or someone else that in a meeting one day will say, you know what I needed to do is this and this and this. And we'll just come up with tools like one of the demonstrations going on now. There's clients who want to cut at angles through material, thicker corrugates or foam boards, right? And so we've had angle tools for a long time. We came out with a variable angle tool that can cut at multiple angles in the middle of a job. It just lifts up, changes the angle real quickly, and goes back and cuts again. So really cool things like that are what we're up to and why we made this improvement in our company.
Well, we're looking forward to the future and definitely the future with Vanguard as well. Guys, you have a fantastic day. Rick, I know you got to hightail it over to another booth. And thank you, everybody. I think it was very informative. Again, if you have any questions, I'll hang out here for a few more minutes to reach out to you directly. Call your GSG reps if you have any questions about getting into rigid printing with Vanguard or any sort of digital finishing with Kongsberg, not ESCO anymore. All right, guys, have a great day.